They look small but play huge. Isometric RPGs give you godlike perspective, deep choices, and unforgettable stories. From the raw chaos of Divinity Original Sin 2 to the haunting streets of Disco Elysium and the brutal tactics of Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, these games prove that top-down doesn't mean watered down. Here are 20 isometric RPGs that every fan of the genre needs to experience. The first game on today's list is Dragon Age Origins. It may not look like a traditional isometric RPG at first glance, but on PC, it fits right in with its tactical, top-down combat and party-based mechanics. Released in 2009, this was BioWare's return to classic RPG roots, deep choices, moral dilemmas, and a rich, dark fantasy world. One of its most memorable features is the origin system. Your race and class shape your prologue, giving real weight to who you are and where your story begins. It's rare even today. Combat can be slow and clunky at times, but it rewards planning and positioning, hallmarks of isometric design. And the cast, iconic. If you've met Morgan or Alistair, you know what I mean. Dragon Age Origins might not be perfect, but it reminded everyone that isometric style RPGs could still deliver emotional storytelling, tactical depth, and unforgettable moments. The next game on our list is Disco Elysium. This one redefines what an isometric RPG can be. No combat, no armor sets, just words, choices, and consequences. And somehow, it's one of the most gripping RPGs I've ever played. You're a broken detective in a decaying city, trying to solve a murder and survive your own mind. Every decision you make, from what to say to how to think, shapes who you become. I still remember failing a skill check to climb a balcony, only for the game to turn it into a key moment of my character's self-doubt. No retry, just live with it. The isometric view gives you emotional distance, but the writing pulls you in deep. It's messy, raw, strangely funny, and sometimes hit me harder than I expected. Disco Elysium isn't just smart, it's brave. It dares to make weakness your main mechanic, and somehow, that makes it unforgettable. The next game on our list is Ultima 7, The Black Gate. This one goes way back 1992, but even today, it's a masterclass in immersive isometric RPG design. You play as the Avatar, returning to Britannia to uncover a dark cult hiding behind a peaceful facade. Sounds familiar now, but back then, this was groundbreaking. The isometric view wasn't just for looks. It let you explore a world that felt alive. NPCs had routines. You could bake bread by actually mixing flour and water, putting it in an oven and waiting. That kind of interactivity blew my mind when I first saw it. Honestly, it still holds up. Sure, the real-time combat is clunky by today's standards, and the UI feels like wrestling with a dossier, a beast, but once you're in, it's easy to lose hours wandering, talking, and piecing together the mystery. For me, Ultima 7 was the first time an RPG world felt like more than just a game. It felt like a place, and that's exactly what a great isometric RPG should do. The next game on our list is Divinity Original Sin 2. This isometric RPG gives you unmatched freedom. Every battle feels like a tactical puzzle, teleporting enemies, electrifying puddles, or even turning into a barrel to sneak around. The game rewards creativity, and yes, punishes carelessness. I once shocked my whole team by mistake, still worth it. The top-down view works perfectly here, letting you see the battlefield like a strategist. But beyond combat, it's the writing and world building that hit hardest. Every companion has their own goals and secrets. Choices matter and consequences often surprise you. Playing solo feels rich, playing co-op, absolute chaos in the best way. Divinity Original Sin 2 isn't just a great RPG, it's the game that made me fall in love with isometric RPGs all over again, bold, smart, and full of surprises. The next game on our list is Arcanum of Steamworks and Magick Obscura. This one's rough around the edges but unforgettable. Set in a world where magic and technology literally clash, Arcanum gives you a unique isometric RPG experience that few games have matched since. The character creation is absurdly deep. Want to be a dumb ogre with a shotgun? A half-elf diplomat who hates machines? Go for it. I once played a thief who couldn't fight but could talk his way through almost anything. Until he couldn't, then, well, it got messy. The isometric view helps you take in the complexity of each area, especially when things go off the rails in combat. And yes, the UI is clunky, the bugs are real, and some systems feel half-finished, but if you push past that, there's a brilliant RPG underneath. Arcanum doesn't guide you. It throws you into a messy world and lets you figure it out. For fans of tough, choice-heavy isometric RPGs, it's a flawed gem that still shines. The next game on our list is Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. This isometric RPG is big, like really big. With deep character builds, branching paths, and an entire crusade to lead, it feels more like a tabletop campaign than a video game, and I mean that in the best way. From the start, the game throws you into a demon-infested war, then says, pick your mythic path. Do you want to become an angel, a lich, or a literal swarm? I chose the lich once. Let's just say my party members didn't all make it to the end. The top-down perspective here is essential. It lets you manage huge battles, control your party with precision, and actually enjoy the tactical depth. Combat can be brutal, especially if you play on higher difficulties, but there's a real satisfaction in mastering it. Yes, it's dense, sometimes overwhelming. But if you love the complexity of classic isometric RPGs, Wrath of the Righteous is a rewarding beast. It's ambitious, detailed, and one of the best modern examples of the genre done right. Set in a gritty cyberpunk Berlin, where magic and tech coexist, Shadowrun Dragonfall blends turn-based tactics with sharp writing and a unique isometric style. It's smaller in scale than some other RPG giants, but that's part of the charm. You lead a team of mercs, each with backstories that feel surprisingly grounded, even in a world of trolls and hacking spells. The mission structure is tight, choices matter, and the story has real moral weight. I still think about a choice I made mid-game that came back to bite me hours later. The isometric view here feels functional more than flashy, but it works. It keeps things clear in combat and lets the storytelling shine. It's not about big open worlds. It's about decisions, tension, and doing jobs that never go clean. For players who want a focused, story-driven isometric RPG with cyberpunk vibes and tactical combat, Dragonfall hits all the right notes. Vagrant Story is one of the most unusual yet unforgettable isometric RPGs out there. Released in 2000 for the PlayStation, it blends dungeon crawling, weapon crafting, and real-time positioning into a dark, theatrical experience. You play as Ashley Riot, diving into a cursed city full of secrets. The combo-based combat system takes time to learn. I spent hours missing hits before finally pulling off a satisfying chain. But once it clicks, it's rewarding. The isometric view adds a cinematic edge. Every room feels carefully framed, every encounter intense. The muted colors, dramatic camera shifts, and cryptic storytelling give the game a unique atmosphere that few RPGs match. It's not the easiest game to get into, but Vagrant Story rewards patience with depth and style. For those craving something different in their isometric adventures, this one's worth the effort. Planescape Torment asks a simple question: what can change the nature of a man? Then it gives you 40+ hours of philosophical, surreal, and often heartbreaking ways to answer it. You play as the Nameless One, an immortal covered in scars and regrets, waking up in a morgue with no memory. The isometric perspective suits the game's introspective tone, less about epic battles, more about exploring bizarre realms and confronting who you were and are. Combat exists, but it's not the point. The writing is. Dialogue trees go deep. Characters like Morta the Floating Skull and Dagon stay with you long after the credits roll. I remember dying just to unlock a clue. Death here is just another mechanic. It's wordy, weird, and slow, but for fans of story-first isometric RPGs, Planescape Torment is essential. It's less about winning and more about understanding, and somehow, that makes it timeless. Hades might lean more toward action than traditional RPG, but its isometric view, progression systems, and character-driven storytelling earn it a firm spot on this list. You play as Zagreus, son of Hades, trying to escape the underworld again and again. Each run is a mix of tight combat, god-tier upgrades, and choices that slowly shape your relationships with the Olympian gods. The more you play, the more the story unfolds. It's like a visual novel hiding inside a roguelike. The isometric perspective keeps everything clean and readable, even during chaotic fights. And while the pace is fast, the emotional moments land. I didn't expect to care about the god of death or his dog, but here we are. It's not your classic turn-based RPG, but Hades proves that the isometric format still works wonders in modern, high-speed storytelling. Stylish, slick, and surprisingly heartfelt, it's a standout. Baldur's Gate 3 is a modern masterclass in isometric RPG design. Built on Dungeons & Dragons 5e rules, it combines tactical combat, layered storytelling, and the kind of player freedom few games dare to offer. From the start, it feels like a sandbox that trusts you. I tried to avoid a fight with a hag once stalked, persuaded, even bribed. She still cursed me. And I loved that the game didn't force a win, it just let the story unfold naturally. The isometric view gives that classic RPG feel, but everything feels alive. Your party banters, the world reacts, and no two playthroughs are the same. Sometimes you succeed with a lucky dice roll, other times, you fail spectacularly, and it's hilarious. What really stuck with me was how personal it all felt. Baldur's Gate 3 gave me freedom, then made me deal with the fallout. That's what makes a great isometric RPG, and this one might just be the best of its generation. The Age of Decadence doesn't care if you're good at RPGs, it doesn't even care if you survive the first few hours. And that's exactly why it deserves a place on this list. Set in a crumbling Roman-inspired world, this isometric RPG throws you into brutal situations with no easy outs. Every choice matters, every skill check can fail, and combat, that's often the worst option. I tried playing a sword-wielding mercenary once, lasted about 10 minutes. My next run, a silver-tongued diplomat who ran from every fight, much better. The isometric view helps you focus on what really counts here: dialogue, decisions, and how far you're willing to go to stay alive. It's less about power fantasy, more about scraping by, and somehow, that makes every small win feel huge. It's not flashy, and it doesn't hold your hand. But if you want a hardcore, consequence-heavy isometric RPG that truly tests your thinking, the Age of Decadence is the real deal. This one might raise a few eyebrows on an isometric RPG list, but Mega Man Battle Network 3 earns its spot with style, strategy, and a battle system unlike anything else. Set in a world where kids battle viruses in cyberspace, this Game Boy Advance title blends real-time action with grid-based tactics. The isometric segments come into play during exploration, but the real magic is in combat. You pick battle chips to build your deck, then dodge, shoot, and slash in fast-paced fights that require both planning and reflexes. I spent hours just experimenting with chip combos, chasing that perfect build. And the post-game, it's massive longer and harder than the main story. Sure, the writing is classic kid anime cheesy, but there's charm in that. Underneath the bright visuals is a surprisingly deep RPG that rewards creativity. Battle Network 3 isn't your typical isometric RPG, but it's one I loved growing up, and even now, it still holds up as a smart, addictive spin on the genre. Deadfire takes the classic isometric RPG formula and sails it into new territory literally. You command a ship, explore a vast archipelago, and shape the world through choices that matter. What stood out to me was the freedom. I spent hours just sailing, trading, and chasing down side quests that felt as fleshed out as main storylines. The world breathes, and your party evolves with every decision. Combat sticks to the real-time with pause formula, and the isometric view makes every fight feel precise. While the naval battles are text-based, they add just enough flavor to the journey. It may have flown under the radar, but Deadfire is a thoughtful, content-rich RPG. For anyone who loves deep lore, strong writing, and tactical play, this is a voyage worth taking. Skies of Arcadia Legends brings a rare sense of wonder to the isometric RPG format. Originally on the Dreamcast and later enhanced for GameCube, it trades grim dungeons for floating islands, sky pirates, and airship battles. You play as Vise, a young pirate with big dreams, exploring a colorful world filled with secrets. The isometric exploration adds a classic charm, and while the combat is turn-based, it's fast, simple, and satisfying. What I loved most was the tone. It's earnest, upbeat, and full of personality. The characters aren't brooding anti-heroes, they're adventurers who actually enjoy adventuring. And piloting your own airship, still one of the coolest RPG features I've experienced. It may not be the most complex game on this list, but Skies of Arcadia nails what it sets out to do: deliver a fun, story-driven isometric RPG full of heart. It's not just nostalgic, it's timeless. Path of Exile is what happens when you take the soul of Diablo 2, crank up the complexity, and make it free to play with more content than most paid games. At its core, it's a dark, gritty isometric RPG with a focus on loot, build depth, and long-term progression. The passive skill tree alone looks like a spider web of madness, and honestly, I got lost in it more than once, but that's part of the fun. Combat is fast and brutal. You clear rooms in seconds, but every move, every build choice matters. I spent weeks theory crafting, only to find out my ultimate build crumbled in endgame. Still came back for more. The isometric view isn't just tradition, it's perfect for reading the battlefield in chaotic fights. And after over a decade of updates, Path of Exile is still evolving. If you love deep mechanics, unforgiving loot systems, and the thrill of perfecting a build, this isometric RPG will devour your free time in the best way. Fallout takes everything great about the original and turns the chaos up a notch. More quests, more freedom, more weird encounters, and all from that iconic isometric perspective. Set 80 years after the first game, you play as the Chosen One, sent to save your tribe in a world that's even harsher and stranger than before. I still remember stumbling into a mob town, accidentally offending someone, and triggering a shootout that wiped half the map. Mistakes here are permanent and often hilarious. The turn-based combat is slow, but strategic, and the isometric view helps you stay tactical in tight spots. But what really stuck with me was the writing: sharp, dark, and often laugh-out-loud absurd. Whether you're talking down a super mutant or marrying someone just to steal their stuff, Fallout gives you the tools and the freedom to be clever, cruel, or just plain weird. It's a true classic of the isometric RPG genre. Wasteland 3 is a gritty, tactical isometric RPG set in a frozen, post-apocalyptic Colorado where diplomacy often ends in gunfire, and morality is always up for debate. You control a squad of desert rangers trying to bring order to chaos, but the world rarely plays fair. I remember trying to broker peace between two factions only to watch everything explode because of one poorly timed choice. Painful, but unforgettable. The isometric view works perfectly here, giving you full control in turn-based battles while keeping the chaos readable. The combat is deep, flexible, and rewards clever planning or punishes sloppy moves fast. What I really appreciated was how reactive the game felt. Choices shape entire regions, companions have strong opinions, and no decision comes easy. Wasteland 3 is brutal, funny, and full of hard-earned victories. For fans of classic Fallout-style RPGs, It's a must-play modern evolution of the isometric formula. Champions of Norrath may not have the fame of its Baldur's Gate cousins, but for action RPG fans on console, it was a standout isometric experience. Set in the EverQuest universe, it's packed with fast-paced hack-and-slash combat, co-op play, and just enough loot to keep you coming back for one more dungeon. I remember sinking hours into it with a friend, arguing over who got the better sword drop. Classic couch co-op chaos. The isometric view keeps the action clean and satisfying. Each class feels distinct, the environments are varied, and progression is simple but addictive. It may not have deep moral choices or complex dialogue trees, but it nails the core RPG loop. For players looking for an old-school, feel-good isometric dungeon crawler with big swords and bigger bosses, Champions of Norrath is still one of the best on consoles. It's fun, focused, and full of nostalgic charm. The final game on our list today is Baldur's Gate 2: Shadows of Amn, a true cornerstone of the isometric RPG genre. Building on everything the original started, Shadows of Amn expands the world, deepens the characters, and gives players a staggering amount of freedom. You're dropped into a web of politics, gods, and power plays. I still remember stepping into Katla for the first time, getting completely sidetracked by a side quest, and realizing I didn't care. I was hooked. The isometric perspective is more than just honor tradition. It supports complex party-based combat, exploration, and tactical depth. You pause, plan, strike, and adapt, and with so many paths to take, no two runs ever feel the same. This isn't just one of the best isometric RPGs, it's one of the most important. Baldur's Gate to raise the standard for the entire genre, and decades later, it still holds up as a masterclass in RPG design. After exploring these 20 isometric RPGs, I'm reminded why this genre sticks with me. It's not just about stats or combat, it's about choices, consequences, and stories that feel personal. I still think about moments like failing a simple roll in Disco Elysium, or turning a battlefield into chaos in Divinity Original Sin 2. These games leave a mark in a way few others do. What about you? Got a favorite isometric RPG moment? Or a game you'd like to see next? Let me know in the comments below.
Yeah, I'm here to get it. I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I go by at night, I be in my feelings.